I never made it, but I know what it takes. I'm motivated.
G'day, Bucks Gas Garage. Today we've got a little video on flushing the power steering unit of the 1966 Mustang. The only reason for this is that the power steering unit got a little noisy, as you will see in the video after a track day that I've done recently. The level is a little bit low and the fluid's a little bit dark, but I haven't changed this before, so hopefully the video sheds some light on how to change the fluid, and I'll try obviously without starting the engine to avoid damage to the pump, so please enjoy. So here you can see the power steering pump. It's the standard setup for a sort of late 65, early 66 power steering pump. A standard unit, standard brackets, and also, as you can see, with this model they didn't come with a dipstick on the cap. Supposedly you're meant to fill until the bottom of the neck. I can see this is down a little bit, but we'll move on from here. As you can probably hear there, the pump is a little noisy, so this is the reason for the change. Okay, these are the tools I've got to do the power steering change. Basically, you don't necessarily need the jack and jack stands. It's just the certain way that I'm going to attempt to do this without using the power steering pump. So basically, we've got the catch tray to catch the power steering, the jack to jack the vehicle up. We have Castrol Dextron 3 or Type F, which is recommended for early Mustangs. Down here you can see I've got a couple of connectors here. Now these will go onto this clear pipe so I can see the colour of the fluid that's actually coming into the drain pan to know when the fluid is fully flushed. I've also bought some caps there. Hopefully they're the right size to cap off the reservoir return line, which I'll be removing to drain the fluid. Screwdriver obviously to remove the hose clamp, and I suggest a good ground rag because it can get a bit messy removing the power steering lines. Righto, so basically getting into it, you whip the cap off, and then you'll see down here you have your high pressure line, which is your outgoing line, and then underneath here you'll see you've got a low pressure return line. Now normally that's just held on by a hose clamp, so what the idea is to undo the hose clamp. Now obviously some fluid will run out, I've got the caps and so on, but I've also made up this clear piece of tube with just a connector to go into the return line so that I can see the colour of the fluid coming out before it gets into the black drain pan. So I didn't have any hose clamps, so as you can see I've just used a zip tie, as I say, low pressure, and we'll just work the wheels backwards and forwards to pump the fluid out. Okay, in removing the return line, that didn't go exactly as planned. The return line is actually a little larger than what I thought. So basically, as I said, you can probably see down below, I've got the catch can and also the ground rag because it can get a little bit messy. So unfortunately, the hose that I had doesn't fit on the pipe, but what it does do, I've made up basically, as you can see here, a bit of improvisation. The hose actually fits over the return line, so this is just standard tube that you can get from Bunnings. So what I'm going to use that for is to cap off the return line so I can circulate fluid. But as you'll see below, what I've done, that's the return line from the power steering there. It's draining directly into the pan, obviously clamped. When I turn the wheels, obviously we'll see what's left of the fluid. Obviously the reservoir is drained into the pan already, which I had underneath just in case. So we'll move on without the clear hose and flush the system. Right, as you can see here, the return line I have blocked off, and we've got the funnel in here, so I'll proceed to add a bit of fluid, obviously a little bit hard while holding the camera. You can see the nice clean fluid going in there. This method of steering the wheels seems to be quite a slow one with this pump, so I will try a quick start on the starter motor with the pump full and see what sort of what we get there. By this stage you can see that the fluid's starting to come quite red and very clear instead of the browny colour that it was. Now each time I've started the engine, because the manual way with this pump doesn't seem to look like it's doing what it does on more modern vehicles with the power steering ram, so I've had to start the car, but obviously each time I've started the car I've topped up the power steering pump reservoir. It only takes a couple of seconds of the engine running to actually drain the whole power steering pump, as you can see by the fluid coming out on the video just before. So at this stage I've probably used what have we got, just over a litre of fluid has gone in at this stage, so I'll probably put another maybe half litre through it just to make sure the system's fully flushed and cleaned, and we'll put it back together and give it a run. Okay, at this stage we have put the return line back on, as you can see here. Now, as I did say, it can be a little bit messy getting it on. I'll have to clean the rest of this power steering fluid away. Doesn't damage paint or anything like that, but just best to get rid of any excess. But I thought before that we will switch it on. Now obviously it's a little overfull, a bit further up the neck than it should be, but there's probably some air bubbles in the system, so let's go for a start. As you can hear, the pump is a lot quieter now that the new fluid circulated, levels are correct. So I think the flushing worked well, but probably good to give it a drive. And also I'll probably take a little bit of fluid out of it as it's a little high at the moment. One method of removing fluid from the pump is to use a syringe like I've got here. Obviously any chemist has these, easy way to do it, or a turkey baster, but it's been running for about 5 to 10 minutes now. All the air bubbles have popped out and we're still a little high, so I'll just drop the level a bit so it doesn't spew out everywhere. As you can see there, very nice and quiet with the full load, full weight of the car on it. So let's go for a drive and make sure everything's right. Everything looks good, nothing's leaking, so we'll continue on our way. That was a good 20-minute run, still nice and quiet, no leaks or anything, and it all looks good. So what do you think, Louis? Good? Thanks for watching that episode of Buck's Gas Garage, and if you enjoy it, please subscribe and hit the like button.